We are live.
Greetings. Thank you for
Hello.
joining us. We're on day 5 of Ignite Your Soul Connection. And before we start our conversation, let us introduce you to Master Force. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. It is so amazing that we have gotten to day 5 of the Wealth Factor. I don't know if you've been here with us the entire week, but I'm telling you, this time has gone so fast. And I just wanted to give a little bit of insight into why we chose to do this actual series to celebrate the winter solstice. If you actually study some of the important documents that we don't always get exposed to, you'll find out that this time of year is very magical. This is the season where you plant seeds, you sit still, you kind of check in with your people to see how they're doing, and you actually are preparing for the spring. So, when they talk about Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, that's a lot of energy when the earth is pretty much asleep.
Yeah.
You know, everything is asleep. So we invite to use the information that we shared and during the actual winter solstice that starts December 21st through the 24th. That's a time for you to fast. And even if you don't do a complete fast, I mean, just maybe choose to fast from sugar, fast from bread, fast from the television, fast from people. Do something to actually say to your soul, I am going to take on listening more closely. I am going to tune in a little bit more to my higher self so I can get an idea of how I'm mapping out my own blueprint. Okay, so that's why we do this time of year. And we're not going for the fame, we're not going for the likes, we're not trying to get 100 people because we're not for everybody. We're a leadership academy, and everybody is not taking on leadership. But for those that do get this message, it's our intention to encourage you to keep growing. Okay? So now that's my little soapbox. Okay. And now we get to talk to an incredible woman. I mean, I sometimes I ask the universe, what did I do to have such amazing people in my life? And that's true about Miss Legault. I mean, listen, you gonna hear me call her many different names, but let me introduce you to Tanisha Legault Williams. Hello, Miss Legault.
Hello, hello, Mr. Work.
And let us give you some background. You want to give them the background on why we talk like that to each other because we really can't help it.
We can't, and we can't help it. We can't help it because we've gone back, but it's our connection to the school. So I've known you
Yeah.
since, how old is Zakor now?
Zakor will be 30. You've known him since the third grade. What is that? 7, 8 years?
Yes, I've known, right. So I'm like, Zakor since second grade. I remember
Since
Zakor
second grade.
second grade, but I
Yes.
taught him when he was in fourth and fifth
Yeah.
grade,
Hmm.
but knew you because of just how connected you were to him, but also just to our school and our school community. Once you were a parent that showed up, showed up for us, that led us, like one of
So
those
don't
parent
make me
turns
sound like
back.
I was a hovering. I've been hovering, right?
No,
I was okay, good.
no, you weren't hovering because the thing was, you were there for all students. It wasn't just about him, you know.
Yeah.
It was about all students, and you were someone that we could always lean on, that, you were there. Yeah, and the biggest thing was we went to Africa with those kids.
Ago. I said, I wrote a proposal to the school, and you all were like, Miss Stewart, really, Miss Stewart?
Like, take the kids to Egypt. And I remember being like, man, I remember that being just a blue sky thing. Just like, man, that would be take the kids to Egypt. And then for us
Oh,
to
it took a while. That's right. It took a while because I was like, oh, I guess we're not going because they sure haven't said anything. Then all of a sudden,
stars aligned.
Mr. Evans was like, Miss Stewart, are we going to Egypt? I said, well, did y'all say yes? He said, yeah. I was like,
Hey, 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 hey,
and
hey.
you ended up being my
And I
roommate,
ended up
Miss
being,
Legault.
yes, yes,
Man, we have lived many lifetimes.
yes.
Isn't that something? That is
That is
really
something.
amazing.
That
And
is something.
then we get to celebrate you this month on so many planes.
Yeah.
Congratulations on
Yes.
your wedding.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, for officiating, for
Oh
us.
my God. I'm
It's
such a whip,
interesting.
Miss Legault. I
I
couldn't believe
know.
that I started crying when I saw you guys. When you turned on that camera, I was like, oh God, I'm going to
I
cry.
know. I know. But I wrote something recently about December when you were talking about just the solstice. And I know for me personally, December is it's a month. I was like, I've had so many highs and lows in
Yeah.
December. So it's my born
Yeah.
month. I was born in December. I gave birth in December because Kareem was born in
Yeah.
December. It's the year. I mean, it's the month when Jared passed.
Yeah.
My late husband.
Yeah.
So what I wrote, it was around, and so for the past few years, it just represented this sadness that would come. Because it's like this season, just became so sad. So when we decided to get married, and I remember it coming to me like, no, we're getting married in December. It's kind
Yeah.
of like
Oh, I was so
a way
glad.
to take it back,
Yes.
to take it,
Bring the light. That's exactly
bringing
right.
that
Let's
light
keep the
back.
celebration.
Yeah, just bringing
Absolutely.
it back. And so it was such a beautiful, it was a beautiful ceremony. Um, yeah, and so this time for me just represents so much. It just represents so much. And
Oh, that is so
yeah,
wonderful.
being a part of this. So, when I saw this, when you sent the call out, which I always love, this time and kind of just the concept of the solstice and kind of, having us focus in this way. But when I saw this idea of wealth and what spoke to me about time, because I was like, okay, That's what's speaking to me because of just how significant it's been for me, in terms of time of life, and just time in general. So I feel like it's something that I'm working on personally, and I continue to work on personally is understanding the importance and value of time. And I understand it I can just look over my life and just see how, the lessons I've learned. Yeah, and just I was like, okay, time is me.
Time,
Time,
and I wondered about that. I was like, oh, Miss Legault gonna tackle time? Okay, come
time,
on, let's go. And
time.
you know
Like,
that, well, the thing about that with you is inside of that Capricorn conversation, because Father Time, that's Saturn. Saturn
mhm,
is the
that's Saturn.
structure, the time, keep things, in place. We have to do it like this, those constructs. That's a Saturn thing, a Capricorn thing. So I could see why that would
And I also
call to
thought,
you.
because my card is the nine of hearts,
Yes. Oh yeah,
and it
let's go ahead and do the cosmic signature. You're doing all that. Go ahead, let's do the cosmic signature. Yeah, go ahead. What's your cosmic signature?
my cosmic signature. So I'm a Capricorn sun and moon.
Oh wow.
I know. And an Aquarius rising.
Yeah.
Can
I
you
can
see
see
that?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
can.
interesting. I remember being
hmm
like, yeah, like I'm a Capricorn, very grounded, but that air is there, you
That
know.
air is there. That's why you could be like, yeah, we'll go to Egypt. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll do this.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like I like to flow. I like to
Yes.
like I'm grounded, but I'm not a type A. I'm not, I like to
hmm
flow. I like a little airiness. Give me some space. Give me, give me a
Yeah.
little bit of, a room. There's a little bit of quirkiness there.
Yeah. Which makes you a great teacher because of the curiosity.
Curiosity is
Mm.
there.
Yeah. And then what's the rest of your cosmic
So my
signature?
Chinese is dragon,
Dragon.
which I felt like I was like, I need to read up on dragon. I don't know if I know a lot about
Well, you got Leela, you got Teresa Lugo. We have a lot of dragons.
dragons.
Dragons are, yeah, and I think we're coming into the. Is it the snake? I think we might be in the dragon year and going into snake. But yeah, let's look at that because that's some good juju, right?
My Myers-Briggs, I had to look it up again. INFP.
Oh,
So mine is
INFP. Mm-hmm.
INFP. So mine is the
Mm-hmm.
mediator.
Yeah, I can see that too. And now how has knowing your cosmic signature made a difference for you? Can you see the power that it brings?
Yeah, and so for me, understanding, it kind of puts things in a certain perspective. It puts things in a certain perspective. And so, yourself. I remember, look, so even when I'm saying about the Capricorn sun, Capricorn moon, and I remember as a child, not, you know, when I knew I was a Capricorn, whenever I got knowing of Capricorn, I remember it never fit me, because I was like,
Mm.
"Mm, mm." Look, there was something that never, and I'm on the cusp. So there's always that as well. I'm on the cusp. But I remember it never all the way fit me. And I actually had, I had other Capricorn friends, too. So it was
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't, that's a Capricorn, like I have one of my good friends, she was a Capricorn. She was a Capricorn, very focused, very,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like that was I was not, and so I remember once going to Masterforce and getting more, just familiar with the full chart. And that's why I was just like, this, it's my Aquarius rising, that kind of tilts me, so I was like, oh, I understand, it just gave me a little more texture to kind of understanding my personality.
And then
Um,
that nine of heart too. It
and then on the heart, because it's like that card. Um, I remember reading it. I'm trying to remember. Um, you know, like I said, I remember reading it at the time, and it just hit my spirit like, wow, you know, this, like, you know, because it's this card of, you know, basically end beginnings and endings, you know, and it talked
Oh,
about we'll go through these phases, you know, and I still remember um at Jared's funeral, you know, when we were driving back, and that's when you pulled that, you know, that car. And I just remember it just spoke to that very moment, you know, of my life. So,
mhm.
you know, understanding, I know when I talk to other people around these things, and you know, you have some people like, well, I don't believe in that, or I'm, you know, and
And
I
most people
try to
don't. And I try to tell them it's not a belief.
it's not a belief.
You-
It's funny because
Mm-mm.
my mother, who's a who doesn't believe in all of that, but she's the most Aries you would ever meet in.
Okay. And you know Tammy, Dr. Tammy is
She
Aries, you
is the
know.
most Aries you would ever
Hmm.
find. And she's like, what? And it's like, you don't got to believe, you know, but it helps me. And like, I get that energy, you know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I get, and I'm
And
not
it
one of
helps you for
those.
your mission, on your mission,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
There's a little depth, you know, a little depth of understanding, and just another way of framing things at times.
Wonderful. Now, Mr. Go, I'm trying to remember, when did you complete your Master Force certification?
In 2020,
Was it 2020?
2020,
Oh my goodness. Okay. So it was
yeah,
right there when
it was
everything
right
was shutting
there.
down.
And when I tell you it was right on time, it was right on time. It
Yeah.
was right on time. It was right for, you know, it was exactly what I needed for where I was. That just helped me make a lot of sense of mostly of just me, you know, of me, of,
Yeah.
you know, and figuring out, you know, ways to be more intentional in my life and in living. You know, when I was at such a transition where it was kind of like, you know, I'd lost my husband. I'm kind of in this, you know, in this realm, and then the world shut down, you know. Um, and then I remember you reaching out to me like, hey, you might want to. And I was like, I don't
You
know.
know, it's so funny how my spirit be telling me to
I
do
don't
stuff, and so
tell you to do things. Because I was like, wow, Mr. It's like, okay. And because the thing was too, I've known you for how many years? You've done this for years. And so, but it
mm-hmm.
was something about, because like I said, it's not like, oh, this new thing not come do this thing, but it was like,
Right.
it was so right on time. Like it was so
Yeah.
right on time for me. So I just, you know, well, you know this, I consider you just such a blessing, you know, just such a blessing. I'm like, man, it's right on time. Um, you know, I still, you know, there's not a day that's gone by since that I haven't used something that I learned, you know, through that process. And
Yeah,
and
that's wonderful.
it's the thing about, you know, because you're learning about coaching, but really you're learning about understanding yourself because you can't help others until you help yourself, you know. And it's the same process. And understanding yourself, you know, that process of understanding yourself, knowing that's an ongoing process. That's an everyday, you know, it's not like, oh, I did it
Because
and
we're
now
changing all the time. We're changing all
it's
the time. And you know, that's what makes our curriculum so distinct from what other people teach. Because when I first went to coaching school back in the late 80s, you know, as a manager with Motorola, we were taught the structure, the left brain. We were taught the left brain side of coaching,
mm-hmm.
you know, and how to motivate people, how to communicate with people, how to help them be peak performers and all that. And for some reason, that didn't really balance me, you know, because I'm a creative. I literally use both sides of my brain, but I am a creative. And so it seemed like something was missing. And that's what Master Force came in play. It's like the spiritual essence of who
Yeah,
we are.
yeah, because it's like, man, you know, one of my favorite quotes from Jared Amon, study self. And when you get
Study
done,
self.
study some more. Right? When you get done, study some more. Like that work is never done.
Yeah. You know, we grew up in the era with the preachers telling us what to do, but then they doing something else. Doctors telling us what to do, and they outside smoking a pack of cigarettes. People
Mm.
doing, and it's like, no, that's not who we are. We're inside of the leadership aspect, and I probably got that from Mr. Evans because he's always talking about lead yourself,
Yeah, that's what we were on.
lead
Lead
yourself.
yourself.
We were
That you can't
on
do
that.
nothing. Lead yourself. Lead
Start
yourself.
there.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you notice, because the thing is, when you lead yourself, because then that's why people will follow you. And that's why people will listen to you.
Yeah, because I can look and see.
Because I can see you. I can
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
You know.
It's amazing to see people talk about weight loss, and it's like, have you tried it? You know, healthy eating, and you eating McDonald's. I don't
Mhm.
know if I want to listen to that, but you
Mhm.
know, this is our discernment. We're actually growing up. We're maturing, so that we're not actually playing in those games anymore. We're
Mhm.
taking our life back, our time back. So let's go ahead and talk about time. Why is it that people say that time is the ultimate currency? What do you mean by that? The ultimate currency.
Yeah, because to me, it's like it's the only thing that's truly non-renewable. You can't get time back.
Can't get time
You
back.
can't you can't get time back. And as you live, one of those keep you learn, first of all, you learn how short life is. It's
Mm,
fleeting. You don't know how much, and you don't know how much time you have. You think you don't know how much time you have, but it's finite. So focusing on really understanding how we choose to spend our time, really reveals what our true priorities are, and what our true values are. um and time is really the foundation that the other pillars are built on. Time is the foundation of health, it's the foundation of relationships, it's the foundation of family. um Everything is built on time. So it's the ultimate currency because you can't put a value on it. Oh
you
no.
can't put a value on it, and you can't get it back.
You get it.
That's you
You
know.
can't get it back. It's funny because we used to have this thing we said when we it was funny because at work we would have these little moments of whatever, and it was like I'll never get that 10 minutes back. I never get that, it's like
Especially
we
if it
just
was felt like a wasted 10 minutes, right?
just
Did I
like
just waste ten
this
minutes
whole
with
thing. I'll
you?
never get that back. I'll never get that back. Like this 20 minutes we just spent doing something, we'll never get that back. Like we'll
Yeah.
never get that back.
And what I'm hearing is the preciousness of time, and I
Mhm.
don't think that we have that perception in our community.
No, we
You
don't
know,
because of how much we wasted.
oh, we have no value on it
Man, of
whatsoever.
how much we wasted. So it's interesting because it's like, this idea of there's not enough time, which there's not. But then, when we really think about how much time we waste on things that don't matter, things, like I say, we'll never get this 10 minutes back, we'll never get this, just, we really audit it in the way of like, was this really worth was this, was doing this worth my time? So, when we're really able to understand the value of it and really treat it that way, because we waste it all the time.
That's a really great point because I think that we and really think about it though. Can you really waste time? I mean, you can be unaware of time, but is it some way you think that the universe still uses that wastefulness? I mean, I don't know.
That's true. I mean, I think that's a good
I mean,
way.
I don't know. I'm just
There are
looking at that
times,
because
there are times though I you wasted it. It's like you just like what did you do? Now there are times when, there are things where it's like time got by. We're sitting here having a conversation. We look up now, it's 3 hours later. That's not considered wasted if we're engaged with it, if we're enjoying ourselves, etc. Um, but I think the waste comes in. It's really our perception of how it was spent. And if it's like, did that feel good? No, it didn't. Well, what was it for? why. That was
Yeah, I can hear that. I can hear that. Like that, it did not serve a purpose. It did not,
it did not serve.
it didn't add value to
It didn't add
anything that,
value. It did
yeah,
nothing. I could have, you know how they say, I could have had a VA. Like,
I could have had a meeting.
could have had a
That's right.
VA.
Give me. Now go ahead and continue. So the whole conversation about there not being enough time, but yet and still we waste time. I
Mhm.
mean, those are two. I mean,
Yeah, it's two
how do
things.
you?
So it really stems from how we perceive time, and
Hmm.
not really from what's actually available. So everybody has 24 hours a day, but it's really about how we use it. It was a quote I found that I loved where it said, "The bad news is time flies. The good news is you're the pilot."
Okay.
And so thinking about, recognize when we're wasting time, with things like procrastination. This is something that I've been working on because, there's a mode of like, I have something I know I need to do. I don't want to do it, so I'm gonna do something else, and I'm gonna do something else instead. And it's really like it's just a procrastination thing where, or there's something, and many times, getting to the root of why I'm procrastinating. So it's like I have this thing to do. Is it that I don't know? Like really getting to the root of why, because it becomes this kind of wasted time. And then now it's a deadline, and now I got to jump up and,
And get it
I
done.
got to jump up and, yeah, I got to jump up and be a wizard.
Well, you know what? What was I? I was working with one client. It had to be a few years ago, and we went through a whole few sessions about procrastination. And one of the things that we were able to differentiate for her is it's almost like a fear of failing.
Mhm.
You know, like something in the background is making me think I can't do it, and so
Mhm.
you're scared to even attempt. But
Yeah.
then, and so what pushes you is that deadline. So
Mhm.
one
But
of the
you gotta
things
do
that we
something.
created, yeah, one of the things we created for her was to create a false deadline. So don't use the deadline that you've been given, but bring it up and then to break it down into steps. So it's little bitty things that you're doing. And then as the deadline gets closer, now you're closer to being done because you have all the smaller pieces, But yeah,
Yeah, but
that's a
the other
procrastination is a good one.
Yeah, but the other thing with that procrastination, is and that's what I'm saying, where it's just like going deeper into the root of like, but why are you feeling
Yes.
guilty? What is that about?
What is that
Because
about? And most
because
of the time
sometimes
it's
we
from
try
our
to put some
childhood.
things around it, but it's like
Absolutely.
there's a root, that we really have to dig and expose, and expose in order to truly get past
And
those
it's going to be
procrastination
different for each person because
person and each
what her fear
situation. Why I'm
was, and
procrastinating
it's
by
the trick.
one thing.
Yes.
I'm procrastinating by one thing
And
for one reason and something else for a totally different reason.
absolutely. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and understanding that this is a pattern, that's really trying to mask something that you really need to tend to
Mm-hmm.
as well. But like I said, in the midst
Yeah.
of all that, what you're really doing is just wasting time. You
It's
really
just spinning around. And I have the opposite problem. My problem is that I do not like to have things unfinished. And so it's like, I have to make a list because otherwise I will just be working all the time. I mean, I have to put in my calendar, sit your butt down,
sit your butt down. Sit
crochet,
your butt
watch
down.
a movie, right, write a book. Because I literally have, projects, and then everybody has ideas about projects, and then, oh, I need to see my grandkid. There's always this something.
Mhm.
So, finding that balance too.
And so that's the other thing about balance in general, And so when we talk about that idea of balance, because even when we talk about wasted time, rest and off time, that's important,
That's important.
That's important. That's not waste. And so that's why I'm saying
Mhm.
differentiating between, oh, I'm resting now, or oh, I'm procrastinating, or I'm avoiding,
Yes. That
like there.
awareness, that's some acute
Yeah.
awareness that you have to
Being
distinguish
aware
there.
of that. And you can choose to prioritize your day, like, okay, I'm gonna do this, then I'll take a break, and then I'll do, something else. I'll focus here, and then I'll take a break, and then I'll focus there. And that's why just the intention, being intentional about it, because it's like, well, are you on break, or are you are you avoiding, or are you on break, or when the break bleeds, and those kinds of things. And so it's really about it's about being intentional, and understanding kind of like your own your own habits relating to those things.
Now, how does aligning your time with purpose fit in with that? How does that help? Does that help with that conversation of not enough time?
Yeah, I think it does. So this idea of the not enough time, so it kind of starts with, well, what is the time? It's 24 hours in a day, when people, um, and then really figuring out, well, what are the things that matter to you? What are your core values,
Mm-hmm.
your life goals? How are you spending time on those things? And if those things aren't getting your time, well, that's not matching with your value. If you say you value family, but
Mm.
you haven't spent time with, and you don't really prioritize family time, it's like, is this really a priority, for you? And if it is, then rethinking how you spend the time. And that's why I'm saying, this kind of like the idea of really being intentional. So kind of going into, one thing that I've started doing the past few years is, and kind of in every season, you know, yeah, just kind of like, okay, summer is coming up. What do I want to do this summer? What are the,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like, and I call it like a bucket list. It's not bucket, but just the smallest things. I want to take more walks. I want to hike more. That's been on my list. Like I want to hike more. I want to, and I also started doing it with the family. So I'm like, hey, these are things I want to do. Add your list, and so then as we're planning our time, we're keeping these things in mind of, hey, these are things I enjoy, and adding those to the list. And so, um, just the idea of scheduling. And like I said, I'm a Capricorn, but I'm not a type A. I'm not person that likes to have their life scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
actually, I don't like. I'm one of those people, don't make a schedule. Don't make a schedule for me. But for me, it's kind of like being intentional of like, hey, these are the things, then I can be intentional, like, we have a Saturday coming up. Maybe we want to do this thing, or et cetera. So, like I said, just being intentional, taking time to really assess what is it that we want, what is it that we enjoy. Because the things that we have to do, those have to do's are gonna get scheduled and get
They're
done.
gonna take. They're
Right.
gonna
They're gonna
right. You don't need to schedule. They
You
gonna
don't have
gotta
to.
go to
It's
work.
gonna those are
Right.
gonna happen. And so,
Mm-hmm.
a friend of mine, I feel like a couple of weeks ago, we were kind of talking about this, and we were like, man, we got to schedule our good. Everything else, the stuff that we got to do is gonna get scheduled. You got to schedule your good, you know. And so really
Mm-hmm.
thinking about those things that really matter to us, um, and prioritizing those things.
Now, when do you get to say no? Do you get to say no to things, or how do you? Because that's a
Gotta say
time
no.
things. Mm,
You right, you gotta say no to things.
right. Because
You gotta say
can you
no.
do this? Sure. Can you do this? Sure. Can you do? It's like no, it's impossible.
So
Right.
something I saw, it said every yes is a no to something else. So saying yes is a demand that can dilute your focus and drain your energy. So learning to say no to distractions and commitments that don't serve your
Mm-hmm.
goals, it allows you to prioritize what does truly matter to you. Um, so another thing I saw, because I'm big on just making lists and to-do lists, but they
Yeah.
said, create a stop doing list too. Like,
Yes. I remember doing that one year because I had a whole thing that I was gonna get a master's degree and a PhD. I said, no, I'm not. Let me take this out.
Take
I
that
am
off.
not paying as much as I study. I don't need to pay nobody else to tell me how to study.
Like,
I did. I remember thinking, let me take this off my list because it's like a trigger inside you. You haven't finished it, you haven't started it, you haven't did it. So you have to literally say, I'm not going to do that. Take it off.
take it off, but also stop doing the things that are, that don't serve you or that, are kind of bad
Such
habits.
as,
Such as one that I'm working on is waking up and scrolling on my phone.
I know.
Like that, but it's just a habit because I wake up, what time is it? And then it's like, oh, now I start scrolling on my, but it's like it's just a little, you can suck you under, and it's
Yeah.
like, is this how you want to start your day? Now I'm looking at all kinds of
No.
6:30. I'm looking at, where it's like, okay, how can I be intentional about starting my day? That's really going to support my goals and priorities and what I really value, as well. So,
Yeah. That's a good one, Miss Legault. I practiced since I moved. I've been here almost a year now, right? And I'm gonna come with my fresh habits, new, so no phones in the bedroom. I'm gonna keep the charger in the office and try. That only lasted for what 2 3 days.
it's so convenient. And then I even have it because now my to-do list is, I've been doing this kind of like morning pages where it's kind of like a morning journal,
Yes.
you know,
Hmm.
but I have to get on my phone to do it. So it's the
And
same.
then I have to listen to my meditations. That's why I had because it's like my meditations are on the phone.
I know, but trying to like, okay, but like just get on this app, not this one, because
Yeah.
you
But I
can just
have
cut
reduced my
down.
screen time a lot. And that was one of my goals for this year to reduce my screen time. So I'll pick it up, go to my meditation and put it down.
Yes, I'm a work in progress with that.
What are some of the other things that you have a challenge saying no to, if you don't mind sharing?
I'm trying to think things that I think I've been
Like
getting,
as for
I've
yeah,
been
because
getting good at no.
huh?
No. I said I've been getting good at no.
You've been getting good at no, yeah. And it's so interesting too because no, who was I talking to? Like, that's a complete sentence. Absolutely. Saying no and not explain why. I know I can't do that, but this is why. It's like, no, just no.
Mm. Well,
And
what I had on my list, is actually about saying yes more, you know. And
mm,
what I mean by that is, well, even this, I say yes to you. I could scroll on, so it's like a lot of times there'll be opportunities to kind of step up or step out, and I just like, oh, somebody else will do it or somebody else will do it. And so I really had to push myself to like, oh, you need to say yes to more, as a way
good for
to,
you.
yeah, as a way to
Hmm.
stretch, as a way to stretch. So,
That's good. And then, when is it necessary to? And I heard you say you don't like to be scheduled, but when is it? When is it necessary to do intense time management? When does that come into play?
um, I think so for me, a lot of it is around work and especially now. So going from, when I worked at a school, your time is scheduled for you. It's back to back to back. You got this class, you got, so I didn't have to think about time. It was more of just managing it all because, first period, second period, third, you got to go to here, got to go there. But so moving from an environment like that to where I work now is I'm more self-paced. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, so I don't have, at this time you got to do this. Oh, so I can figure it out for myself. And as someone that struggles with procrastination, it's like we need a schedule because it's kind of like, okay, I got these things to do. I don't want to do this one. I don't want to do. And so I really had to focus on scheduling my day and tackling the harder things first because like I said, I would, ooh, it was something I was reading where it was kind of like you break your tasks into kind of like big rocks and small rocks, um,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of handle those big rocks. And so, like I said, my habit is I look at the rocks and and then I want to go look at something else. It's kind of like,
The
and if I
rock's
can
over
push
there.
it to
I'll be
the
back.
side, yeah, because it's kind of, or I get stuck with something. It's like I start something, I get stuck, and then I don't want to deal with it, and so it's like really working with myself to like, no, 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 no. What do you need to do now? You got stuck. What's the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
to do to get up stuck? So really about working up your, the fortitude, I think to kind of power that. And so, um, for me, like I said, that time management had to do with managing my day, and making sure to prioritize the harder things, try to get those out the
Mm-hmm.
first. Those, because a lot of times it's like, okay, I got big things and small. Let me start with the small things because they're easier, you know.
Right,
And
right,
I had to
right.
shift that to like, no, you got big things. Start with the hard things, because you're fresher and just get it done. And then the afternoon, it's a little lighter. You can do those little things. So, that's part of being intentional and thinking about, your own kind of, for me, morning is better, later is not, it's not better. So thinking about your own, some people are night people, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
they can get a burst at night. I'm not getting no burst at night. So it's like, if it, and to lie to I'm gonna do it later. No, you're not. You're not gonna do it later on,
Mm-hmm.
and really.
That is so cool because I remember when you were talking, it made me remember probably about 10 years ago when I realized that I wanted to increase my capacity. Like I wanted to be able to take on more and effectively complete them, right? Because again, I don't like to have things undone. And so I did see that I needed to schedule my time. And years ago, probably about 20 years ago, I used to produce a class. I used to, somebody else was teaching it, but I was the producer in the back of the room, right, on time management. And I remember I said, oh, yeah, what did I learn? I was in the class, but I'm producing, I'm not learning there, but like, yeah. And so one of the things was to try look and see how you can schedule all of your time,
Mhm.
right? So, and even if you can't schedule, so in my phone, I have when to drink water, I have when to take my vitamins, I have when to do qigong, I have when to get on the rebounder. Matter of fact, I had to take one of the rebounders off because I noticed that every time it came on, I was doing something and it annoyed me. And I did, so I had to put it in another time. But that being able to time myself like that and even look at time, I know that it takes me 5 to 7 minutes to clean up the kitchen.
Mm,
But most of the time, we put things off because we think it's going to take a long time.
a long time.
So when I'm working with people who are learning how to do their peak performance, it's like put the timer. It used to be an egg timer, but now on your phone, just time stuff.
Hmm.
How much time are you spending in the bed? I know that I can get ready in 10 minutes no matter what.
Hmm.
If I had to.
Right.
Okay. But if I don't have to, it takes me about 30 minutes. I'm not a 1 hour, 2 hour person,
Right. Hmm.
So that time, I think doing the time management helps us to create more value.
Hmm.
And I people say, oh, I called you. I say, yeah, well, I have a do not disturb at 9 o'clock. And that's 9 o'clock Eastern. So that's your 8 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And well, you can text me if I'm awake, but most of the time I'm gonna get in the bed, put my phone away, and that's inside of me wanting to manage that full essence of the day. How
Of
much
the
am I gonna get out the whole day?
whole day, and I like what you said about like put everything in there, put the break time,
With the break time, going
those
for a
little,
walk. This is my free
Put the
time.
exercise. When are you
Yep.
exercising? When are you,
Yep.
whatever. Put those times in there. And the other thing is, because I think about just how we're taught. And so I've been trying to, like, with my kids, with Kareem for sure, is teaching him how to manage his time. And so it's
Yes.
kind of like, well,
Yes.
he's not gonna be able to manage his time if I can't, manage mine. And so, especially, as a teacher, that's what I saw with students all the time is, that they struggle with was their own time management.
Yeah, they spend so much time on the screen. It's just really, and that's a time warp. That will take your
It
whole
is. But
day.
even with him, it would, because I remember a time where it was like, don't do it, don't do it, where it's kind of like,
Yeah,
well,
you
no,
can't. Yeah.
give it a time. Like, give it a
Yeah.
time. Give it a time and put it on. And okay, you can do, but what else? But what
Yeah.
else? And so
But
you
what
have
else?
these hours, but what else? Because it's kind of like, if it's not scheduled, then it's just willy-nilly, it's just gonna be willy-nilly. And that's where the wasted, that's where
Yeah.
waste.
I know. I remember asking my son, about my grandchildren's screen time, and one thing he started doing was, 9 o'clock. Everybody got to give me your phone and iPad.
Mm,
They go in my room,
mhm.
and then go get ready for bed. But imagine that, if we don't do that with children, we're really teaching them that time has no value.
Value. Mhm.
It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what you do with it,
Mhm.
and that's false.
Mhm. That's true. Yeah, that's true. It's like, when that's why I'm thinking about kind of like what we can do to better just support our students, and our children, just with a healthy
Hmm.
start, with kind of understanding their own power in you know and so what I've tried to do more so is, because what I would do more so is schedule it for him. Okay, you're gonna do this at this time, but really having him schedule it for himself. you know
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
are you going you
And
got to
as he
do this,
gets older,
when
he
are you
can.
gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, so that he
Hmm.
can schedule it for himself, to just have a habit of, like, okay, tomorrow is Saturday, what are you gonna what are you gonna do tomorrow? What are things you need to do? you know
Hmm.
what are things you want to do? And just, kind of like, okay, so what time? Well, how long is this going to take? And just kind of schedule the day in that way.
That's good. Now, how does, scheduling, right? How does rest and reflection fit into that? And then how do we cultivate all of that inside of a conversation of the wealth factor?
Hmm.
Because if time is the ultimate currency, which it is, right? Because you can't get it back. But how do we also include, and we talked about rest, and I don't know if we talked about reflection, but how do we put all that together inside of the wealth factor?
Yeah, well, I think it all works, all works together. This, because it comes to that idea of balance. There are things we have to do, there are things we want to do, but this idea of rest and reflection, and I put that under a have to do. We have to
Yeah.
rest. We have to rest, and we have to prioritize that, because it's kind of like, we're not going to be our best when we're not operating, when we're this idea of and I remember times, when I kind of look back at different points in my life, times where it was just like, I felt like the little hamster wheel where, we're just like running,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they get up and you do this, whatever. And I remember, definitely the last few years, which for me, I would definitely say, dealing with grief, kind of having, when your life shakes up like that.
Stop. Oh, and you want the whole world to stop. I
It was
remember
like, ooh,
thinking everything needs to stop, but it didn't.
everything stops, and I
Mm-hmm. For
remember,
you. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I remember just that time for me, because I couldn't think about, next week, or, it was kind of like this
Mm-hmm.
idea of future, all I could focus. And I remember going back, I was talking to somebody about this recently. I remember when I went back to work, um, and they were planning for next semester. They asked me questions about next semester. I said, I can talk about today and I can talk about tomorrow. Don't ask, it's like I can't,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here, you know. And over time I got stronger and I got better, but what stayed with me, I think, from just that experience was just like, man, you got to slow down. You have to slow down and really savor the moments that you have because you
Mm.
don't know how much time. You talk about next time, we don't, it's kind of like, and just savor what you have. And really, so that's why for me, this idea of rest, reflection, and reflection for me is always rooted in gratitude. It's rooted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's just one of the pieces that help with being present. With being present. I think that's important. The way it's tied to wealth, um, and I've kind of also seen this manifest with me as well, is, it's really providing, you know, it's kind of setting the stage to kind of allow more in your life when you're able to kind of be in a state of gratitude. You're able to reflect, think about things that are going well, think about things that you want to shift, be intentional towards things, um, and kind of just that slowing down, it really invites more abundance and more wealth, to you as well.
Yeah, because we allow, and this is the other piece that we have to get our children to see, that allowing that stillness is where that reception, that receptivity, receiving comes in. Let providence do its thing. It's not just you who's trying to make it happen. You put your piece in and then sit back.
Sit back and stillness, and
Hmm.
stillness is how you receive, it's how you receive. And so, which I do feel like that's something that's, because, when we think of kind of like being caught in the rat race and you got to, this kind of,
Well, is it possible to avoid the busyness, the trap of busyness? Is that even possible? I mean,
I mean, I think it is. I think, you can be busy and not productive. And sometimes busyness is a mask for productivity, It's
oh, sometimes busyness, yeah, sometimes busyness is a form of procrastination.
busyness busyness is a form of procrastination sometimes. So that's
Hmm.
why it's like
Hmm.
there's a busyness. It's like, wait, are you really busy, or is this something, it's something else? Because um, this idea of I always got to be moving, got to be moving, got to be moving. Where, as I said, that being still is being in a state of receiving, and it's actually helping you align more with yourself, and really be reflective on your goals so that you can be more intentional in the moves that you make.
And then why do you think people, so because I'm sure that people don't think they're be, being busy. Some people really think that busyness is productive, right?
But and
But
like I said, and I'm
sometimes,
saying it may be, and that's why it's
hmm,
like you have to ask yourself that nobody can say whether your busyness is productive, or that's a you conversation. Is
that's a
this
you conversation.
is
Hmm.
this is this moving me closer to the life that I want to create for myself? You know, and so to me, that's just what you have to ask yourself in those moments. You know, and I also see it as seasons. They're busy seasons,
Hmm.
depending on where you are and what you're doing at the time. And to me,
Yeah,
it's important to kind of balance that with, okay, a season of busyness. I know when I have a season of busyness, I just had one, but I said, come tomorrow, come
no,
tomorrow, come tomorrow though, and so it's
Hmm.
kind of like you gotta have that balance of it.
I think that sometimes, in the structure of society, this whole engineered society, people get in the habit of trying to get things done now, hurry up and get it done. But when we look at Mother Nature, there's no hurry to get it done. It's going to go through its cycles. So when you just talked about that seasons, we have to look at that in our own life. Like we don't have to get it all done before we 30. I
Yeah.
don't have to be famous by the time I'm 30. I don't have to be married and all that. And then, when I'm talking to, and especially my brother Kings, this whole thing, I got to make my money before I find my mate, well, most people produce their largest wealth after the age of 60,
Yeah.
between the ages of 60 and 80. And I didn't make this up. This is in Think and Grow Rich, right? Said
Mhm.
that all the studies that he did, he said most people accumulate their wealth after 60. And if you think about it, that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Because
because I'm
when
like,
you're
they probably
younger,
just got some wisdom.
yes. Well, you got to study. You got to get to know yourself. It takes about 30 years, 30 or 40 years to do that, to know
Mhm.
yourself. And then you're also starting a family and you're in your career. So you're not trying to get wealthy while you're with your family and your career. You're focused on those things. But then by the time you get 50, it's 50, the kids are grown, are gone. Now you can start focusing on your wealth in their business ideas or whatever. And if we can have people to realize that you don't have to hurry up and get it done before you're 30, pull that stress off of you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's so many messages that we get in different places. And I think it's important to understand that everyone's gonna have a different path, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are some young people that, start out the gate, and then get, and to me it's like that's a path, and that's for some people, but it's not for all. And so I think sometimes when we, want to tell this is how, I think a better message, is understanding that it's many ways this can look. There's
Mm-hmm. As
ways
long as we, yes,
this
yep,
can look, but
yep,
really
yep.
focus on you and your path. Your path is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
your path is going to be your path, and it might not look like everyone else's path, but that's okay, and
Well,
really
going back to what you said before, getting to know yourself,
getting
knowing.
to know yourself. Yeah, getting to know
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And, for me, the ideas of, of kind of the rest and reflection, the rest and reflection and self-care is what helps you to know yourself, because,
Yes.
it's really cultivating this self-love, taking care of yourself, and really
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing it. This is how you know yourself and you get to value yourself. And so then you start to make decisions. And when you're in this place of self-love and self-prioritization, what I've seen is you get more guidance just in general. You just, you're open to receive more guidance from the universe, around that can help you on your path. And so to me, it's about just getting in tune, having a level of patience, um, this kind of willfulness and drive. I'm a Capricorn, I got drive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a bulldozing kind of, there's drive,
Yes.
but then there's also this patience because this understanding, that things are gonna, transpire and things are gonna, kind of like the road is gonna show itself. And so everyone's road is gonna look different. But I think the more that we're in tune, kind of with, that we're in tune spiritually, I think we're able to kind of navigate better.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I like to take that on into the conversation of the solstice
Hmm.
in time. You know, how do you see that fitting in time in the solstice and
Yeah.
the wealth
Yeah.
factor
So
too? Yeah.
nature, the solstice, it's interesting because I always say, I'm like, man, nature is our biggest teacher. I,
Biggest teacher.
whenever I'm feeling, anxious or just whatever, today I was at the lake today, just
Yes, that's your favorite
around.
place. Yes.
It's it's like I can just go, and there's always like, there, just some level of comfort. And today's download, when I was there, because I go there all the time. I'm like, the trees, I have this thing with trees. And so I'm
Hmm.
looking at them today because we are in the winter trees. Now I've seen these trees summer, they were dancing with leaves all summer, and then they turn colors and they, put on a little show. Now it's not a leaf at all. Well, no, not a leaf on these trees, but I'm looking at how they're posed and I'm like, okay, I see you. It's like they have these poses. And so to me, it's just speaking of kind of like just the idea of seasons. There's a season for it all, a season to show off, you know, there's a season to be still, you know, and then there's going to be a season of growth again. And so being able to recognize and value each of the seasons and kind of what they're there for and what they're there to teach you, I think is important. And so, this time of year, the other thing that always gets me, because this idea of getting dark at 4:30. Just being dark. Like it's dark. I look up, I think it's 10 o'clock at night. Oh, it's just 6 o'clock. Why is it looking,
Right.
so
It's
like
still dark at 7 o'clock a.m. It's still
it's
dark.
it's dark, but it's like, yeah, the earth is like, no, we're shut down. Like we're shut down. Like we're shut
We're
down.
shut
And it's
down.
okay to rest. So it's okay the sun is like, I'm not doing 10 hours a day. I'm in and I'm
No.
out. And I'm in
I'm
and
in, I'm out.
I'm in and I'm out. So it's the idea that this season is about rest and restoration, and
Hmm.
relaxation. And then I think, for us and for me in particular, it's just, for me, it just allows and gets me into like, yeah, what do I need to do to take care of myself, And what I begin to enjoy about this season, because then it's like, okay, I'm gonna put, I got all these lights around the house, got my little Christmas lights.
Oh,
So I'm like, well, it's
yes.
dark at 4:30. It's dark,
Gotta
let me
put something up. Right.
so I'm like, I'm giving my candles and, I got my little cozy drinks and, we got a new,
Hmm.
it's just like, it's time to cozy up. And, that's just, that's also part of this season. So it's kind of like, you can look at it as a dark season, and I think at times I kind of focus it's dark, but then it's like, but there's good in that, it's
Yeah.
dark, we're cozy, it's fireplace, it's, there's just something to enjoy and celebrate in it all.
Yeah. When you said that, I immediately thought of dark matter. Everything is created in the dark. When you plant seeds, they got to go in the ground. When you have a baby, it's in the dark in the womb. When you
Right.
have a thought in your mind, it's in the dark place. So definitely this time of year gives us the opportunity to go into that darkness and create,
Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, we can be intentional about, well, what do we want to create during this time? And how can we really set ourselves up to enjoy this season, to the
Now,
fullest?
do you have any family rituals or any rituals that you do that you could share to kind of give people some insight into maybe what they could do?
Certain
Mhm.
rituals, really more of you know, having a morning reflection. Like I said, I've been trying to keep up with my morning pages, um, you know, journaling. Something we did that we need to get back to is we did a family like gratitude jar um
Oh,
last year, and just just trying to so we have it kind of like in the living room, and we just put things in there, and take a time to like just add to the gratitude jar. I'm trying to think what else. um we need to get back. We would do kind of like Sunday family hikes, at times, or for me, like getting outside and getting outside as a family is important. So prioritizing that and having kind of new places to check out as well.
yeah. I think this is the time of year too that some people do their vision boards. You
Vision board.
know, you can do your own individual or family vision boards. I love that gratitude jar. I remember for my birthday one year, Tia created an affirmation jar for me.
Mm,
And she had a whole lot of affirmations in there. And she said, every day you can go and put, and she had the cutest little things in there that she had written, just affirming her love for me. I hadn't thought about that for years. I think she did that when she was probably 17, but that was really cute now that I think about it. I'll make sure that I'll share that in our ideas for family time because
mm,
those are good ideas. And people can just drop them in. Just drop them in. You're passing by, drop them in.
yeah.
Puzzling. Yeah,
Mm,
puzzling is a good.
that's a good one.
hmm
Hmm.
Puzzling. And now, do you? I know that you said you do pages, but does any other people in the family? Do you all ever do reading time or journaling time? Do you all ever do anything like that? Book club.
We haven't done that. Well, kind of like on trips. So, there's been times where we'll take, which we need to do this year. We haven't done kind of like camping, or cabin glamping, like a glamping
hmm
trip. And during that time, we'll kind of do like, all right, let's, have some reading time, or um, have some things like that. We did puzzling during that time, coloring, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. Make a list of those because I like the idea of having, sometimes, even when you start talking, people come up with their own ideas, but just to get something going,
Hmm.
you know. And then now, do you do any fasting or anything like that? Do you fast during the solstice or?
I haven't. I haven't fasted during the solstice. I was thinking about that at the beginning when you were talking about it. I was like, I think I should. Usually I will fast more towards the beginning of the year, kind of like the new year. Do a juice fast.
It was so funny. I remember I got married to Heru on December the 21st, the solstice.
Oh
And
wow.
we were fasting. And then we did our honeymoon immediately after that in New Orleans. In New Orleans, we were
Oh,
fasting.
and
Like
fasting
we
in New
fast.
Orleans. Oh, that's not the place to fast. That is not the place to fast.
We went to so many things. It was things that we wanted to get done in New Orleans. So it's good. But I was like, now you talk about a waste. That was.
Yeah,
I've
that
been back
is
to New
something.
Orleans many a
Yeah.
time since then. But I was just like, oh my. And I think one night, I think maybe one or two nights we had stopped fasting, but you can't eat that kind of food after you come off of
After
fast.
you fast. No, I'm like, that is not the place to fast at all. At all. Yeah. Well, my birthday is December 22nd. So it's
Yes.
but my birthday ritual for the past few years has been watching the sunrise. So getting out to the lake,
Oh wow.
morning of the 22nd, and watching sun.
Oh, and that's something that you and them can do this year together. Oh my good.
Thought
Oh
about
my
that. I was like,
goodness.
let's try to find
Yes.
see if he'll wake up
How,
early. 'Cause usually the
but
last
it's
few
your
years,
birthday.
I know. I know.
He'll work out. He'll work out. And it's so cool too, right? Because it's like even though it's at the end of the year, it's still your new year.
I know, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're creating a whole nother new cycle. So
Mm-hmm.
after that, don't forget to call me for your reading, your yearly reading. It's gonna be fun to see what
My reading. And I've been
Mm-mm.
every for my birthday the past few years, I've kind of done a kind of intention of the year. So it's
Yes.
been interesting to just read over the past,
And
because
go
I
back to it. Yes.
go back to it because it's just been kind of interesting keeping up with that. So I've really enjoyed I really have been proud of me kind of keeping up my writing. That's something I never did until recently. I would say maybe the past 5, 6 years. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think writing, for me, it provides, a way of kind of getting out of myself
Hmm.
and then actually observing myself at the same time.
Yeah.
Because putting it on paper, you can have, really say the average person has 65,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of them are negative or repetitive. And
Wow.
most people don't stop to even be aware what are you thinking over and over again,
And
right?
that's what I'm saying. It's like that process of just jotting down, because when I go through and read it, I'm like, oh, wow, look at, and to see kind of like what comes up over and over again, um, just as a way for your own, kind of self-discovery and self-growth,
Yes.
but it was something, I've always been a reader, so I've always been a reader. And I think writing for me, I was a math teacher, so I was like, I don't do all that.
Yes.
Don't make me write.
Right.
Like,
Right.
don't make me write. And I always thought I wasn't a good writer. I had a lot of like, oh, I'm not a good writer, and that kind of thing. And that kind of kept me from writing. But yeah, the past few years I've really been leaning into. Yeah, I read some stuff the other day. I was like, look I wrote that. Look at me. Like, okay.
But don't let me start to pressure you about publishing a book.
I know I have that on my list actually. I
That
have that
got
on my
because we're gonna bring that back around. We had fun in our recertification last year working on that, and again, it's such a process
mm-hmm.
that you still have to keep coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I finished mine and this is the 20-year anniversary, we had a Saturn retrograde from June until November. And when I tell you I couldn't touch that book, publishers are like, hey, what you got? We waiting on the final, I look at that thing and not
Nope.
today.
Said not
And it
today.
had nothing to do with procrastination. It just was not. And I didn't know until one morning I picked up my phone and there's the publisher, da da da. And I said, let me tell her these three things that I need so they can send three things so they can send me my book. On the phone, did the three things they
Here's
need
the three things.
from June to November. But that's really that time too was an internal stillness going on.
Mm-hmm.
You
Wow.
know what I'm saying? Because when that energy pulls away, like even when we're going through Mercury retrograde, and that energy pulls away, it almost makes us be still.
Still. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah, and
know,
understanding the purpose of that, because I'm like, yeah, being still is important. Being still is
very.
important. Like
Now,
there's
when you
and
when
there's time for it all.
is that one of your challenges? Is stillness? You actually create stillness, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stillness is not no, stillness is not a problem for me anymore. I get still. I get,
So, I get still when I
I
have
got
to.
that. I got that. But I didn't always. I didn't always.
Hmm.
I would say, that's something I definitely grown in. But now, oh no, I have no problem with
Yeah,
stillness.
I definitely have to put up parameters because I again, I like to get things done,
Mhm.
and it's like, okay, we're not doing all of that. But I'm like, the list, wait, okay, if we're not doing this today, let's put it on tomorrow. Let's at least I know that it will get done, when
Mhm.
when it needs to get done. Now, let's talk a little bit about how time helps us create legacy. How
Mhm.
how is that a part of this work in the wealth factor? Why is that a significant thing to
You know,
point to?
so I think the idea, so when we talk about why time is precious, the answer to that is because we know that we don't have, we're here for a limited amount of time and we don't know what that time is. And so to really ask ourselves, what would we have wished we spent our time doing? And did we really spend it in a way, and kind of using that as a guide to help live our lives kind of align, did did and I kind of look at that season by, so like I said, I kind of, okay, we're going into winter, and just kind of looking like really into summer. I do it a lot because at the beginning of summer, I'm like, all right, what do I want? you know, winter is gonna be
Yeah, for these
sunny.
3 months, right? Hmm.
Right. What do I want to do this summer? What do I want to do? And then when it's leaving, it's kind of like, but did I do it? Like, did I spend it? Did I do it? Because I had this thing. I'm like, if it's a sunny day, I want to be out in it, because we
Oh
don't
yeah.
get that many, so it's like, if it's a sunny day, you better be out in it, and so then it's like,
Hmm.
okay, because when this cold comes and you put this coat on, this coat about to be on for months, you know. And so, but then I look back, but did I do summer when I had it? Did I do it? Okay, I did. And so really looking at our lives, like that, did we spend time in the way that we wanted to? You know? And if not, and to me, it's like at any time we can ask ourselves this, and if the answer is no, we can change it. We can change it because we can say, no, I wish I had done more X, Y, and Z, and then we can go and do more X, Y, and Z. So, like I said, that quote, about time flies. The bad news is time flies. The good news is you're the pilot.
Hmm. That's why we use what's the term, recapitulation in
Oh,
our work. Remember we talk about
yes.
and we
Wait, tell
got
me
that from
situation again.
recapitulation. We got that from Deepak Chopra in his book Spontaneous Combustion of Happiness or something. But what he pointed to was that at the end of our life, right, when we're on our deathbed, they send the priest in or whatever, and you kind of confess your sins and you talk about what you want to be forgiven for. And he said, even though you have the opportunity to do that, to get all this out, you can't change anything.
Right.
You're just going to die. It
Mhm.
doesn't do anything. So his suggestion was, why not recapitulate daily?
Wow. Daily. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're looking at what didn't I get done today that I needed to do? What happened today that I regret? Do I have any regrets? And then if it's something, it goes back to don't go to bed angry, right?
Yeah,
So
because if it's
if you're
something I can
upset
shift it. If it's something I can
right now,
change
before you
it.
go to bed, do not take any negative energy into your spirit when you go to sleep because the brain creates when you're sleeping.
Yeah. Hmm.
So if you're do the recapitulation and you're looking at, what didn't I get done? What do I need to do? Who do I need to apologize to? Those different things. You have a more fulfilling life
Hmm.
because you go to sleep clear. and you wake up. I mean, if you've used that time, because you can also use that time with your binaural beats and create too.
I love
So
binaural beats
there's,
too.
oh my
I
goodness,
use it
yes.
all the time. I use it all the time.
I was just thinking today, oh yeah, it,
So put that on the
different
list.
time. Well, it's on my list because I have a list of certain binaural beats that and I was thinking today, oh, I got to change this one. I got to change this because it's the morning binaural beats, it's the nighttime binaural beats, it's the when you're studying it's when
Mhm.
you're cooking you can
Yeah.
do binaural beats all the time. When I was healing my hip, I mean, it was like I couldn't do binaural beats. That's the only one. You're
That's
gonna
the only
heal
thing.
this hip.
The heal one. The healing
We're
one.
not gonna be trying to grow our hair or clear our skin up or none of that. We going but the binaural beats, help create that frequency,
Hmm.
in your body. And the body is so intelligent when you put it in there, it goes to work. But you can't mix it with your negative
With the negative.
disposition. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah. So
you know.
that cleansing, recapitulation. Yes.
Yeah, recapitulation. And to get that recap. It's like a recap, you
Hmm.
know. But he uses the full word because he said it gives you the honor of what it takes to do that. Because it's like recapitulation. Oh yeah,
Hmm.
you know. So that's a good one. So now, when we're talking about time and legacy and wealth, right? What comes to mind for you? What is that? Because time at some point we leave here.
We leave here, right? And it's like when we leave here, what will we say about how we spend our time? What will, our loved ones say about, how we spend our time and what we did with our time here?
Hmm.
So I think when we're able to really look at it as precious and limited, and be intentional, and be intentional with it, then we're able to, now I think how it connects to wealth. Well, I think two things. One, because most wealth happens over time, and so the idea of of saving and being financially responsible, and investing, and those things build over time. um but I think the part around just understanding that our time with people, and our time spent purposefully, is
Hmm.
also wealth. It's also wealth. And so
Yeah, and
remember
it's
I told you,
more. What was that quote? What
yeah, I
was
was
the
about to
quote
say
that
what
Kareem?
Kareem,
Yeah, what
right,
was it?
right. What Kareem said, because he said, when I was talking to him about, being on this podcast and what we were going to be talking about, and, this idea of the pillars of wealth and time being a pillar of wealth. And he said, yeah, because wealth is not just about money, because you can have someone that has money, but they don't have wealth, or you can have someone that is poor, but they have wealth in other ways. So I was
And
like, oh,
how old is he?
right,
How old is Kareem?
he's well.
My goodness. And I mean, that is so.
Yeah, but he got it as soon as I said about, just the idea of the pillars of wealth. He was like, yeah, because wealth is not just about money,
It's
it's
not just
not
about
about just
money.
what you have. Because we see it all the time, people that have what we think is everything, but
Mm-hmm.
in terms of where they are spiritually, or where they are with themselves, where they are with their family and people that, yeah, and in their lives, because, of just not having a lot of
Fulfillment.
fulfillment or
Yeah.
happiness, joy that really comes from within.
And you see people say, they said money won't buy happiness, but something else. And really, we've been taught, again, trained, and we have to allow ourselves to retrain ourselves. We can't, you know what I'm saying? We know better now,
Mhm.
right? And this is why we keep exposing this knowledge to people as well. But, you know, for the most part, we think that if I get the money, I'm going to be okay,
Yeah.
but then
Times
on the inside,
yeah. And I think, but I'm not one to discount money now because I'm like,
no,
you
I'm not there. No, we listen, I need $1 billion because I need to
right. That's
build
how
some schools. Right.
I'm
I
like,
need to build some
in
schools.
my,
That's
like
been
I
on my
said,
list for 20 years now.
in
Right.
my stillness, in my meditations, because I consider myself a money magnet. I'm like, it comes,
It does. And I
comes.
always
It
have everything
comes,
that I require.
it comes,
I've
and I've
always been
always
able to
had.
do, yeah, I've always been able to do whatever I wanted to do. And for me, why that's significant, and when you talk about gratitude, I mean, I be because I literally grew up in our family, we were on welfare because my mother was in the mental hospital, and so my grandmother had to have money to take care of us. So we were on welfare with food stamps and and hoes and shit, so it wasn't like I had some idea that I would be taken care. Literally had to create that from what? Reading,
From reading.
knowledge,
That's why the knowledge.
because nobody in my family was divulging any secrets or telling me, but it's that knowledge sitting in that
That
closet by
knowledge,
myself.
but the understanding too, I think, because I know I also had to work through, just, our relationship with money, and
Yes,
and being in a place of, because like I said, now I know, because I'm like, no, I'm a magnet, it comes,
it
like
comes. I
it
don't have to worry.
comes,
Exactly, I don't have to worry
it comes
about
and
it.
it
I don't.
grows.
And when I need to create it, I actually do. And I learned going to college. And you know, I remember I had a algebra class, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning, but I worked at a bar until 2 a.m. every night. And I would come in my algebra class and put that book up and put my head down. And one day the teacher tapped me. He said, "You do know that you have to be awake while you in class." He said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I work, and I'm paying, I have to pay my way through college." He said, "If you really want to go to school, the money will come."
It will come.
That's exactly what he said to me. And I'm thinking, this white man used to having mamas and daddies with pockets. I ain't got none of that.
Yeah.
But then
Mm.
I had to say, okay, let me not discount that.
Not discount that, yeah. And really, because like I said, that's a frequency. That's a
Yeah.
frequency,
Because
to
you
be
can tell yourself, I'm poor, ain't
you can
nobody doing nothing for me,
right and
ain't
kind of
nobody
be
this,
in
why
that
I got that. And you stay
and you
in
will
that
see more
mindset.
of that. Yeah, and you will see more
Yeah.
of that and kind of be in a place of lack, or lack or
Mm-hmm.
fear of, where I'm like, that's, that energy is not it's not the frequency, but it's also important to understand the the value beyond, because it's not just about money, you know it's about
Yeah.
the fullness of life, it's about the
Yes, it
full
is.
life that includes all of it, that includes our love,
Yes.
what we contribute to others, and who we are, and the frequencies and what we really want to put out in the world, and how those things always, work together. And so that's why when the idea of being in purpose and kind of operating in your purpose, and figuring out, ways that operating your purpose, can lead to money, or and lead to ways that you're able to, to sustain and take care of yourself.
Yes, all of that. Oh, Miss Legault, we're getting up to the
I know.
like, oh my, now I know that are you practicing? Have you set up a coaching practice yet? Are you still pretty much using this inside of your work and on yourself, or?
Yeah, using this is mostly inside of my work on myself, and kind of with my coaching that I do with teachers as well. So
Yes, so you can do that. So, because I was going to say, do you have any programs? But those are internal inside of your
Those are more
work.
internal,
Hmm.
but I'm putting it on my list. I'm putting it on my list to get back engaged and and kind of grow that coaching practice.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I was talking to someone recently, and I said I still have a vision that there's a master force coach at every dinner table. Because our children, our families, we have to figure out how can we, at some point, those elders need to adopt the family, because people need help,
Mhm.
and I don't, and it's not financial help. It's like you're saying, spending time,
Mhm.
dropping knowledge, you know, giving some of that attention to children because the parents are working and busy.
Busy. Mhm.
Yeah, we have to create more community inside of that, and that takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. Yeah, it
Hmm.
does. And the idea of villages, I think that's something we have to really, embrace more,
Hmm.
and
Do you
understanding
have any
our influence of others.
in understanding what? I'm sorry.
Just our influence over others, that are kind of like in our circles as well.
Yes. Hmm. I totally agree. Absolutely, totally agree. Do you have any final words as we begin our sign off for the what is this? The fourth pillar of wealth, time.
Um, Final words. I enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
Like I said, I was drawn to it because this is something I work on. Something
Hmm.
that I work on with myself is kind of, and seeing time, as wealth. Um, and really being intentional with my time. So I appreciate, just having this conversation with you, and definitely appreciate this series every solstice. I enjoy and appreciate the energy. And it's so needed. Every topic is so needed.
Every topic is so needed. It took us actually a whole year to bring this topic because we like to do the work on ourselves. We like to be able to say, "Oh, I get this."
Mhm.
Not that I'm going to just talk to you about it, but I can use it for myself. And that brings me to tomorrow night, everyone. That's going to be our final night, and we're going to have a panel of Master Force coaches to actually share different solutions and methodologies in the different topics that we had this week. So we're going to have some learning aids to share with you. We want to be able to um, allow you to take this information and use it and not just be, oh yeah, they talked about this. No, we're going to give some step by step instruction that you can download and Mr. Go, I am going to include some of your amazing ideas as well because I know you won't be able to join us.
Have the birthday party.
Yeah, yes, it is your birthday weekend. I understand. So you got the birthday, the wedding, the
Let's
solstice.
say
Oh my goodness.
December. Let's just say December is everything. Everything.
Everything, everything. Well, thank you so much for your time for actually taking this on. And you said yes to this before the wedding. You just like, yeah, I'm gonna just do that too.
Yeah. Well, like I said, saying yes, like I said, it was on my list. And it was this is the frequency I'm on. So when I saw this, it's kind of like when you're drawn to something, it's a reason for it. So
Yeah. And I like to tell people I like to teach that what I need to learn. So to deepen my own learning, I like to teach and it takes me to another level. So
Mhm.
that's
Definitely.
wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So thank you for joining us tonight, and we hope you'll join us tomorrow night. And you can also look at previous shows on our YouTube Ignite Your Soul Connection page. And as always, we appreciate you so much. And we're here to make a difference. So keep listening.